I'm Jackson, 32, male, and my fiancée just canceled our wedding for the third time while I covered every single cost. The first time, it felt like a tragedy. The second time, a cruel stroke of bad luck. But this time, as I stood in our immaculate living room, the afternoon sun glinting off the glass coffee table she'd insisted we buy, a different feeling washed over me. It wasn't sadness or anger. It was a deep, chilling stillness. The kind that comes when you finally realize the monster you've been afraid of has been living in your house all along. My fiancée, Chloe, was a master of emotion. She could craft a narrative better than anyone I knew, which was, I suppose, why she was so successful as a social media influencer. Her 30,000 followers didn't just see pictures of brunch and sponsored products. They saw a story, a perfect life she was building, and I was meant to be the handsome, stable, supporting character in her fairy tale. I met her 3 years ago at a charity gala my engineering firm sponsored. I was there out of obligation, feeling out of place in my rented tuxedo. She floated into the room like she owned it, a vision in emerald green. She told me she was an event planner and her confidence was magnetic. I was a civil engineer. I built bridges, roads, and foundations, things that were solid, predictable, and meant to last. Chloe was the opposite. She was effervescent, spontaneous, and dazzling. She was everything my quiet, structured life was missing. Our relationship was a whirlwind. Within a year, we were engaged. I was hopelessly in love. I loved the way she lit up a room, the way she encouraged me to be more adventurous, and the way she'd look at me and call me her rock. It was a role I was proud to play. Her income from influencing and part-time event planning was erratic, so when it came time to plan the wedding, I didn't hesitate to cover the bulk of the expenses. I had a good job and substantial savings. What was money when you were building a future with the woman of your dreams? The first wedding was scheduled for a beautiful spring day in May. We'd booked a stunning botanical garden, a caterer famous for their farm-to-table menu, and a photographer whose work looked like it belonged in a magazine. The total cost was eye-watering, but I justified it as an investment in our happiness. 2 weeks before the big day, I came home to find Chloe sobbing on the sofa, her face pale and her phone clutched in her hand. "What is it? What's wrong?" I asked, my heart hammering against my ribs. "It's my mom," she choked out. She had a fall. They think it might be serious. She's in the hospital back home." I dropped everything and wrapped my arms around her. Okay, we'll get through this. I'll book you a flight right now." "But the wedding, Jackson," she whispered, her eyes wide with what I thought was anguish. "We can't get married if my own mother is in the hospital. I can't stand up there and say vows when she might be." "SHH, don't even think about that," I said, stroking her hair. "The wedding doesn't matter. Your mom is what matters. We'll postpone it." She cried with relief, telling me I was the most understanding man in the world. I spent the next 2 days on the phone, canceling everything. The garden, the caterer, the florist, they all had non-refundable deposit clauses. I tried to negotiate, explaining the situation, but contracts were contracts. The final tally of lost deposits came to just over $12,000. When I told Chloe, she looked devastated. "Oh, Jackson, I'm so sorry. I'll pay you back, I promise. As soon as I get a few big brand deals, I'll cover it." I told her not to worry about it, that family came first. She flew home for a week and came back telling me her mom was on the mend, but it had been a close call. I never once questioned it. My best friend David was more skeptical. Over a beer a few weeks later, he'd frowned. "A fall, 2 weeks before the wedding, the timing is just dramatic." "David, come on, it's her mom," I said, defensive. "I know, I just think Chloe has a flair for the dramatic, that's all," he'd replied, holding up his hands in surrender. I brushed it off. David was a financial analyst. His entire job was to be cynical. He didn't understand Chloe's passionate, emotional world. We rescheduled for the fall. New venue, new season, new hope. This time it was a rustic barn upstate, perfect for the crisp autumn air. We found new vendors. Once again, I put down the deposits. This round of non-refundable fees came to nearly $18,000. Chloe was ecstatic, her social media feed filled with hashtags like Second Chance at Forever and MyRock Jackson. This time we made it to 1 week before the wedding. I had just picked up my tailored suit. My dad had flown in. The air was buzzing with anticipation. I was at my desk at work when I got a frantic call from Chloe. She was speaking so fast I could barely understand her. "The venue. Jackson, the venue, it's a disaster," she cried. What happened? A fires?" "Worse, they double booked. Some corporate retreat is showing up to set up. The manager is claiming our contract was never finalized, that our deposit was just a hold and not a confirmation. He's a liar, Jackson, a complete liar." My blood ran cold. "That's impossible. I have the signed contract right here in my files. I have the wire transfer confirmation." I know I'm here now and they're just stonewalling me. They said we can have our deposit back, but they can't host us. Not next week. What are we going to do? All our guests have booked flights." Her voice broke into a desperate sob. I left work immediately, my mind racing. For the next 72 hours, we lived in a state of pure chaos. I was on the phone constantly trying to find a replacement venue on 1 week's notice. It was impossible. Everything was booked. The caterer couldn't move. The band was unavailable for any other potential date. It was a domino effect of collapse. We had no choice but to cancel everything again. This time, the financial hit was even worse. We got the venue deposit back, but every other vendor kept their money. Another $16,500 gone. I felt numb. When I finally collapsed onto the couch, defeated, Chloe curled up beside me. "I can't believe this happened," she said, wiping tears from her face. "It feels like the universe is against us." She looked at me, her eyes glistening. "But we have each other. You're so strong, Jackson. You handle everything. I don't know what I'd do without you." Once again, I took the loss. What else could I do? It was a nightmare, but it wasn't her fault. It was a shady venue manager. At least that's what I told myself. When Chloe promised again to pay me back from her next big project, I waved it away. We were a team. Her debt was my debt, and my savings were our savings. David, however, was less convinced. "You should sue that venue," he'd said flatly. "I could look over the contract for you." I told him I didn't have the energy. I just wanted to move on. In hindsight, I see he wasn't offering to look at the contract to help me sue the venue. He was offering to see if the contract was even real. And so we planned the third wedding. This time we picked a date a full year away. Saturday, July 19th, 2025. A high-end hotel ballroom in the city. Third time's the charm, Chloe had said, her optimism seemingly unbreakable. I was less optimistic and more weary, but I loved her. I wanted to be her husband. So I opened my checkbook one more time. New deposits, new contracts. Another $20,000 committed to vendors who, I prayed, we would actually use this time. Which brings us to today, 3 days before wedding number 3. Everything was perfect. My suit was hanging in the closet. The rings were sitting in a box on my dresser. Our families were already flying into town. And Chloe had just walked in, sat me down on the sofa, and told me with a look of profound theatrical sorrow that we had to cancel. Again. "I don't understand," I said, the words coming out flat and hollow. My mind was struggling to catch up with the reality of what she was saying. "Cancel? Chloe, it's in 3 days. Our families are already here." "I know," she whispered, her hands twisting in her lap. She was avoiding my eyes, looking at a point on the wall just over my shoulder. It was a tactic I'd seen her use before when she was about to deliver news she knew was difficult. It created a sense of gravity, of reluctant duty. "This is the hardest thing I've ever had to do, Jackson." The reason this time wasn't a family emergency or a vendor catastrophe. It was, as she explained it, a career-altering opportunity. A massive global beauty brand, the kind she had only dreamed of working with, had contacted her. They were launching a new product line and wanted her to be one of the 5 influencers in their global campaign. It involved a press junket, a photo shoot, and a series of launch events. In Paris. "It's a 2-year contract, Jackson," she said, her voice filled with a hushed awe. "This could set us up for life. This is everything I've ever worked for." "Okay," I said slowly, trying to process. "That's amazing, but when is it?" I already knew the answer. The dread was a cold knot in my stomach. She finally met my gaze, and her eyes were glistening with unshed tears. "The main launch event, the one all the press will be at, is this Saturday. The day of our weddings." I stared at her. The air in the room felt thick and heavy. I could hear the faint sound of traffic from the street below, the hum of the refrigerator. Everything was normal, except for the fact that my world was tilting on its axis. "They just told you this now?" I asked, 3 days before. "It was all very last minute," she said, her voice rising with defensive energy. "The deal has been in the works for weeks, but it was all secret. I signed an NDA. I couldn't tell you." Another influencer dropped out, and I was their first choice to replace her. They only confirmed everything this morning. They said if I can't be in Paris this weekend, the entire contract is off the table. It's a deal breaker for them. She reached out and took my hand. Her skin was cool. "Don't you see, this doesn't just benefit me, it benefits us. The money, the security, we could buy a house, a real house. We could have the wedding of our dreams next year with no budget at all. This is a sacrifice, yes, but it's for our future." In the past, I would have been swept up in her logic. I would have seen the sacrifice, the us, the future. I would have buried my own disappointment to support her dream, but something inside me had broken. I looked at her, so earnest and convincing, and I felt nothing. The part of me that blindly trusted her, the part that made excuses for the drama and the chaos, had gone silent. All I could see was the pattern. A series of last-minute, non-negotiable, cataclysmic events that always required me to forfeit my dreams, my stability, and my money, while she remained the tragic heroine of the story. So you want me to call my parents, who are flying in from Arizona as we speak, and tell them to turn around? I asked, my voice dangerously quiet. You want me to call your parents, who are staying at the hotel already, and tell them the wedding is off because you have to go to Paris? We'll tell them together, she said quickly. We'll explain that this is a once-in-a-lifetime chance. They'll understand they love us. I pulled my hand away from hers. And the hotel, the caterer, the 150 guests who have already arranged to be here, the money, Chloe, we're set to lose over $20,000, again. The tears in her eyes finally spilled over, rolling down her perfectly sculpted cheeks. Don't you think I know that? Don't you think this is killing me? You're talking about money, and I'm talking about a life-changing opportunity for our family. It was a brilliant move, turning my practical concern into a petty, materialistic complaint. She was framing me as the bad guy, the man who cared more about dollars than her dreams. And for the first time, I saw it for the manipulation it was. Okay, I said. The single word surprised her. She stopped crying and looked at me, a flicker of uncertainty in her eyes. Okay. Yes, okay, I repeated, my voice devoid of emotion. I stood up and walked to the window, looking down at the street. You're right, it's a huge opportunity. You should go to Paris. I could feel her relief from across the room. It was a palpable wave. She had been expecting a fight, tears, arguments. My numb acceptance was not part of her script, and it seemed to unnerve her more than an angry outburst would have. Really? Oh, Jackson, thank you, she said, rushing to my side, wrapping her arms around my waist from behind. I knew you'd understand. You're the best man in the world. I'll make this up to you, I swear. We'll have the biggest, most incredible wedding next year. I didn't move, I just stared out the window. I'll handle the calls, I said. I'll cancel everything. We can do it together, she started to say. No, I cut her off, my tone sharper than I intended. I'll do it. You need to pack for Paris. She hesitated for a moment, then squeezed me tighter. Okay, I love you so much. I didn't say it back, I just nodded. After a few more seconds of awkward silence, she let go and bustled off toward the bedroom, her mind already on flights and outfits. I stood at that window for a long time, feeling the foundation of my life crumble into dust. The love I'd felt for her wasn't just gone, it was being replaced by something cold and hard and sharp. Suspicion. The story was too perfect. The timing was too convenient. The stakes were too high. It was all designed to be an offer I couldn't refuse. And as I stood there, the weight of nearly $60,000 in lost deposits pressing down on me, I realized it wasn't a monster living in my house. It was a con artist, and I had been her easiest mark. The next 24 hours were a blur of humiliating phone calls. I started with my parents, catching them during their layover in Chicago. My dad, a man of few words and deep principles, was silent for a long moment after I explained the situation. Then he just said, "Son, are you okay?" It wasn't a question about my logistics, it was a question about my well-being. I choked out a yes and promised to call him back later. Telling Chloe's parents was harder. They were already at their hotel, excited for the weekend. Her mother was confused, then worried. Is she all right? Is this about her career? She works so hard. I played the part of the supportive fiancé, echoing the corporate jargon Chloe had used. It's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, I said, the words tasting like ash in my mouth. Then came the vendors. The hotel event manager was sympathetic but firm. I'm sorry, Mr. Miller, but our cancellation policy is clear. Within 72 hours, you are liable for 100% of the estimated cost. The caterer, the band, the photographer, it was the same story. My credit card was about to take a hit for the full amount of the wedding we weren't having. By the time I hung up the final call, Chloe had already left for the airport, blowing me a kiss from the doorway and telling me to hold down the fort. The apartment was quiet. It was the first time I had been truly alone with my thoughts since she dropped the bomb, and the silence was deafening. I couldn't sit still. I paced the living room, my mind replaying every conversation, every excuse, every promise from the last 3 years. I needed to talk to someone who wouldn't just offer sympathy. I needed logic. I called David. It's off, I said as soon as he answered. No, he breathed out. Don't tell me, what was it this time? Alien invasion, sudden calling to join the circus. A career opportunity in Paris, I said, my voice flat. There was a pause. Okay, Jackson, I'm not going to say I told you so. What I am going to say is I'm coming over. Don't do anything, don't delete anything, don't talk to her, just wait for me. An hour later, David was sitting across from me at my dining room table, a laptop open in front of him. He had the calm, focused demeanor he got when he was analyzing a complex stock portfolio. All right, he said, let's stop treating this like a series of unfortunate events and start treating it like a case. We're not dealing with bad luck, we're dealing with a pattern of behavior. What is the one constant in all three cancellations? Me losing a ton of money, I grumbled. Besides that, he said patiently, the constant is Chloe and a last-minute unverifiable story, so let's try to verify them. Let's start with number one, the sick mom. What are we going to do, call her mom and ask if she really had a fall 2 years ago? I said, exasperated. No, that's a frontal assault. We need to be smarter. You said Chloe flew home to take care of her. Where's home? A small town in Oregon, I replied. And she was gone for a week, I nodded. Did she call you, send you pictures? Yeah, of course, she called every day. Sent a few pictures to show me her mom was doing better. An idea, cold and sharp, pierced through the fog of my misery. Wait, I said, pulling out my phone. Our photos are automatically backed up to a shared cloud album. I never look at it, but it's there. I navigated to the app, my fingers feeling clumsy. I scrolled back 2 years, my heart pounding. There it was, an album titled May 2023. And inside, a photo Chloe had sent me. It was a selfie of her, smiling brightly with the caption, Mom's finally feeling up to a little sunshine, such a relief. In the background was a pristine, manicured garden. See, she's outside with her mom, I said, my voice wavering, half hoping I was wrong about all of this. David leaned in closer. Jackson, look at the top of the screen. The cloud service automatically geotags photos unless you turn it off. Look. He pointed to the faint gray text above the image. La Quinta Resort and Club, Palm Springs, California. The breath left my body. Palm Springs, not a small town in Oregon, a luxury resort in the California desert. That can't be right, I whispered. It must be a glitch. Is it? David said, already typing on his laptop. He searched the resort's name and the dates Chloe was gone. His eyes narrowed. Interesting. That same week, a major lifestyle and branding summit for influencers was being held at that exact resort. A lot of big names were there. My mind flashed back. Chloe had been talking about that summit for months before, lamenting that she couldn't afford to go. It seemed I had paid for her to go after all, just not in the way I thought. We were silent for a moment, the implication hanging in the air. The first cancellation, the one built on the sacred foundation of family illness, was a complete fabrication. She had lied about her own mother's health so she could attend a networking event, and she had used my $12,000 in lost deposits to fund her trip. A sick, hot anger started to build in my chest. The second one, I said, my voice hard. The venue, she said they double-booked us. That one's harder to prove after the fact, David said, unless you have some kind of record. I don't think I do, I started to say, but then I stopped. Another memory surfaced. It was a small, insignificant detail. During that week of frantic searching for a new venue, Chloe had complained about stress headaches and asked if I could book her a massage. She said her regular place was booked, but she found a deal at a fancy hotel spa across town. I'd paid for it with my credit card without a second thought, happy to do anything that might give her a moment of peace. I logged into my credit cards. Account online, my fingers flying across the keyboard. I scrolled back through the statements, my eyes scanning the entries. There it was. October 2024. A charge for $450 from the Serenity Spa at the Grand Hotel. But it wasn't for a solo massage. The line item description was clear, Couples Bliss Package. A couples package, I said out loud, my voice cracking. She told me she was going alone. David looked at me, his expression grim. She wasn't alone, man. The pieces were clicking into place, forming a picture so ugly and calculating that it made me feel physically ill. While I was desperately trying to save our wedding, she was enjoying a spa day with someone else. On my dime. The anger was now a raging fire, but I needed the final piece. I needed to know who he was, and I needed to connect him to this final, ultimate betrayal, the trip to Paris. Her old laptop, I said suddenly. She's been using her old one for the past week, said her new one was getting repaired. She never logs out of anything. I walked into our home office and saw it sitting on the desk. It felt like an artifact from a crime scene. I lifted the lid. The screen flickered to life, showing her perfectly curated desktop background, a photo of the two of us smiling on a hike. The irony was a physical blow. Her messaging app was open, and at the top of the list was a name I didn't recognize. Marcus. The last message from him was sent just a few hours ago. Wheels up, my love, Paris awaits. Can't wait to celebrate our victory. Victory, he called it a victory, my stomach clenched. I started scrolling up, my world dissolving with every word I read. Reading those messages was like stepping off a cliff in the dark. There was a moment of weightless disbelief, followed by a brutal, stomach-lurching impact with the truth. It wasn't just an affair. It was a long-term, calculated deception with me as the central mark. The conversation with Marcus went back months, years even. He was Marcus Thorne, a well-known tech entrepreneur, a charismatic, self-made man who was often featured in business magazines. He was also, as I quickly gathered from the texts, very married. Chloe had met him at that influencer summit in Palm Springs, the one she attended while I thought she was at her mother's bedside. He was a keynote speaker. Her initial messages to him were fawning, professional, but they quickly turned personal, flirtatious. It was clear he was taken with her ambition and she was mesmerized by his power and wealth. Their affair had started there and continued ever since. The second wedding cancellation, the venue disaster, wasn't a disaster at all. It was a fabrication they had concocted together. I found the texts where they planned it. Chloe, he's bought it completely, thinks the venue screwed us over. He's so trusting it's almost sad. Marcus, my brilliant girl, are you sure you can handle the drama, crying on cue? Chloe, please, I deserve an award for this performance. He's running around like a hero trying to fix it. Meanwhile, our spa day is booked. Can't wait to see you. The couple's bliss package was with him. While I was losing my mind with stress and losing thousands of dollars, she was getting massages with her married lover, laughing at me. The rage that filled me was so profound, so absolute, that it felt like it might burn me up from the inside. But the worst was yet to come. I kept scrolling, my vision blurring. I saw their discussions about me. Chloe complained about my boring 9-to-5 job, my predictable lifestyle, my simple tastes. I was the safe, stable foundation that allowed her to build her fantasy life. I was the bank. Chloe Jackson asked about our finances again. I had to do the whole struggling artist routine. He's so easy to manage. Marcus, let him keep paying for the wedding stuff. It's less I have to spend on you. And when I'm finally ready, you can just leave him, make it clean. The phrase, when I'm finally ready, appeared again and again. Chloe was constantly pushing Marcus to leave his wife. He was always putting her off, giving her vague promises about the right time. The weddings weren't just being canceled because she wanted to avoid marrying me. They were being stalled to give Marcus more time to get his affairs in order. She was using my life, my heart, and my bank account as a holding pattern for a future with another man. And then I found the texts about Paris. This wasn't a last-minute offer from a beauty brand. Marcus had orchestrated the entire thing. His investment firm was a silent partner in the brand. He had pulled strings to get her the opportunity, creating a believable, ironclad reason for her to cancel our wedding for a third time without raising my suspicions. It was his grand gesture to keep her happy after she had threatened to get impatient. Marcus, the Paris contract is a go. They'll contact you in a few days. Act surprised, it's the perfect. Excuse, he won't dare argue with a career move this big. Chloe, you're a genius. This is so much better than faking another family death. He was starting to look at me funny after the venue thing. Marcus, wheels up, my love, Paris awaits. Can't wait to celebrate our victory. Victory? Their victory was the complete and utter destruction of my life. I felt a profound, terrifying calm settle over me. The grief, the shock, the rage, it all cooled and hardened into something else. It was the feeling I got on a job site right before a controlled demolition. All the emotional charges had been set. All that was left was to push the button. I closed the laptop. David, who had been watching me, reading the horror on my face, simply said, Jackson. She's been playing me from the very beginning, I said, my voice empty. All of it, a lie. What are you going to do? He asked quietly. Are you going to call her in Paris, confront him? I thought about it for a moment. A screaming match over the phone, a pathetic, messy scene that would give her the satisfaction of seeing me broken. She would twist it, turn herself into the victim, the misunderstood woman who just followed her heart. He would dismiss me as a jealous ex-fiancé. They would win. They would hang up, order champagne, and toast to their victory while I was left with the rubble. No, that wasn't justice. I looked at David, and he must have seen the shift in my eyes, the change from heartbroken victim to cold-blooded strategist. No, I said. I'm not going to do that. She wants a fairy tale. She wants a big, dramatic story for her audience. I'm going to give her one, an ending she never saw coming. The civil engineer in me took over. I saw the problem not as a heartbreak, but as a structural failure. The entire edifice of her life was built on a rotten foundation of lies, and I knew exactly how to bring the whole thing down. She thinks she's celebrating a victory in Paris, I said, a humorless smile touching my lips. She has no idea that I'm back here planning a party, a big one, and everyone is going to be invited. The path forward was suddenly crystal clear. There would be no more tears, no more confusion, just calculation, planning, and eventually a reckoning that would be as public and as devastating as the deception had been private and cruel. The key to a successful demolition is preparation. You don't just light a fuse and run, you study the blueprints. You identify the load-bearing walls, the stress points, the weaknesses. You plan the sequence of the collapse to ensure the structure falls exactly where you want it to, with maximum impact and minimal collateral damage to anything you want to preserve. For the next week, while Chloe was posting filtered pictures of herself sipping cappuccinos near the Eiffel Tower with captions like "working hard for our future," missing my rock at Jackson Builds, I became the architect of her downfall. My first call was not to a friend or a family member, but to a lawyer. I found a sharp, no-nonsense attorney who specialized in civil litigation and fraud. I laid out the whole story, my voice calm and methodical, just as I would in a project briefing. I told her about the 3 canceled weddings, the documented financial losses, and the new evidence I had uncovered. When I finished, she was silent for a moment. "Mr. Miller," she said, her voice crisp, "this is not just a breach of promise. Based on what you've shown me, the text messages specifically, we can make a very strong case for fraudulent inducement. She entered into these wedding agreements with you, inducing you to spend significant sums of money with no genuine intent to ever follow through. She intended to deceive you for financial gain and to maintain her lifestyle. It's a powerful angle." "So I can get the money back?" I asked. "I believe there's a very high probability," she confirmed. "But you will need to organize your evidence impeccably. Every receipt, every bank statement, every contract, every screenshot of every message. Create a timeline. The clearer the story, the stronger the case." That was a language I understood. For the next 3 days, my apartment became a war room. I printed every vendor contract, every credit card statement with the lost deposits highlighted. I took high-resolution screenshots of the text message chains between Chloe and Marcus, carefully arranging them in chronological order. I cross-referenced dates and times, matching her lies to me with her real-time conversations with him. It was a grim, soul-crushing process, but with every piece of paper I added to the file, my resolve hardened. This wasn't about heartbreak anymore. This was about justice. The final file was a 3-inch thick binder of irrefutable proof. The next step was to set the stage. I needed a venue, a public one. When Chloe called me from Paris, her voice was bubbly and bright. "Hi baby, I miss you so much, how are you holding up?" This was my first test. I had to be the old Jackson, the supportive, slightly wounded but ultimately forgiving Jackson. I took a deep breath. "I miss you too," I said, forcing warmth into my voice. "It's been tough, not going to lie, but you were right. I've been thinking about it and this is a huge step for us. I'm proud of you." I could almost hear her preen through the phone. "Oh Jackson, I knew you'd come around, you're just the best." So, I continued, I was thinking, when you get back we shouldn't just crawl back into a hole, we should do something bold. Something to show everyone, our friends, our families, that we're not broken, that we're stronger than ever. "What are you thinking?" she asked, her curiosity piqued. "Let's throw a party," I said. "Not a wedding, a party. We can call it our finally happening engagement party. We'll announce a new date for the wedding, maybe next summer. We'll show everyone that 3 cancellations can't stop us. It'll be a great story, your followers will love it." I had dangled the perfect bait. A chance to spin the narrative, to control the story for her audience. She was ecstatic. "Jackson, that is a brilliant idea, absolutely brilliant. Oh, it will be so romantic, a testament to our love. We can book that chic new downtown lounge I told you about. We have to invite everyone." Everyone, I agreed, the bigger the better. For the next week, we planned the party together via text and calls. She was in her element, suggesting caterers, florists, and a specific DJ. I agreed to everything. I let her take the lead, making her feel like it was her vision. I encouraged her to create a special evite and send it to her entire network. Her family, my family, our mutual friends, and most importantly, the local lifestyle bloggers, brand representatives, and social media contacts who formed the backbone of her career. The subject line she chose was perfect. "Our love story continues. You're invited." Meanwhile, I was making my own preparations. I contacted the lounge she had chosen and spoke to the event manager. I booked their premium package and paid the deposit. Then I made a special request. I need your best AV package, I said. A large high-definition projector and screen. I'm planning a surprise tribute to my fiancé, a slideshow of our journey together. I need it to be seamless. The manager was more than happy to oblige. I even went to the venue myself one afternoon to check the equipment, bringing my laptop to test the connection. It worked flawlessly. The final piece of the plan was the most difficult. I had to face our families. I met my parents for dinner, and with David there for support, I told them the entire unvarnished truth. My mother cried. My father's face was like thunder. He put his hand on my shoulder and said, "Son, you do what you need to do. We're behind you 100%. Telling her family was a different calculation. I couldn't show them my hand. I met her parents for coffee, playing the part of the devoted fiancé. I told them about the party, about how excited Chloe and I were to finally put the bad luck behind us. They were overjoyed, praising me for being so patient and understanding. Their approval felt like another layer of her deception, and it cemented my resolve. They deserved to know who their daughter really was. The night before the party, Chloe arrived home. She swept into the apartment, tanned and glowing, laden with shopping bags from Paris. She threw her arms around me, and I had to fight every instinct to recoil. "It's so good to be home," she sighed, kissing me. "I have so much to tell you. Now let's talk about the party. I have the most perfect dress. Everyone is going to be there. It's going to be the story of the year." I looked at her, smiling her radiant, false smile, and felt a profound sense of pity, not for myself but for her. She had no idea. "Yes, it is," I said, my voice even. "It really is." The evening of the party was unnaturally beautiful. A clear, warm late summer sky bled into shades of orange and purple over the city skyline, a perfect backdrop for the curated perfection Chloe lived for. The lounge was exactly her style, industrial chic with exposed brick, softened by velvet furniture and cascading fairy lights. It was packed. I estimated at least 100 people were there. A mix of our families, old friends, and Chloe's carefully cultivated network of industry people. Chloe was the center of it all, a radiant star in a shimmering silver dress. She moved through the crowd with an effortless grace, air-kissing cheeks, laughing and accepting congratulations. "Isn't he the best?" I heard her say to a group of bloggers. "So patient, my rock." Each word was a small, sharp twist of the knife in my memory, but on the surface I was the picture of the proud, adoring fiancé. I smiled, I nodded, I held her hand. I played my part. My best man, David, stood near the bar, watching me with a concerned look. He knew the whole plan. When I caught his eye, he gave me a subtle, questioning nod. I nodded back, a silent confirmation, all systems go. My heart wasn't pounding with anxiety, it was beating with a slow, steady, and resolute rhythm. The engineer in me had taken over completely. I felt detached, observing the final moments before a planned event, my mind focused solely on execution. I had the presentation on a small USB drive in my pocket. My laptop was already with the DJ, tucked away near his booth, connected to the AV system. I had walked through the sequence with him earlier. He was a young guy who thought he was facilitating a romantic surprise. "So after your little intro speech," he'd said, "you just give me the signal and I'll kill the house music and switch the input to your laptop. The screen will light up and you can take it from there." The signal we'd agreed on was me adjusting my tie. About an hour into the party, Chloe found me. "It's perfect, Jackson," she breathed, her eyes shining. "Everything is absolutely perfect. I think it's time. Should we do the speech now? Announce the new date." "I think so," I said, my voice smooth. "Let's gather everyone." She clinked a glass with a spoon, and a hush fell over the room. She beamed, grabbing my hand and pulling me toward the small, raised platform where the DJ was set up. "Hi, everyone," she began, her voice bubbling with excitement. "Thank you all so much for coming. As you know, Jackson and I have had, well, a bit of a bumpy road to the altar." A ripple of sympathetic laughter went through the crowd. "But through it all, we've learned that our love is stronger than any setback, and it's mostly thanks to this man right here." She squeezed my hand and looked at me with what to anyone else would appear to be pure adoration. I saw the triumphant gleam in her eyes, the look of a victor. "My rock, my patient, wonderful Jackson, we wanted to have you all here tonight to celebrate our resilience and to finally, officially, announce our new wedding date." The room erupted in applause. Her parents were in the front, her mother dabbing her eyes with a tissue. My parents stood near the back, their faces stoic and unreadable. Chloe turned the microphone over to me. "I think my amazing fiancé wants to say a few words first." This was it, the moment of detonation. I took the microphone, my hands steady. "Thank you, Chloe," I said, looking out at the sea of expectant faces. And thank you all for being here. Chloe is right, our journey has been educational. It's taught me so much about love, trust, and sacrifice. And before we make our big announcement, I wanted to pay a little tribute to her. I've put together a small presentation to show you all the story of our love and the challenges we've overcome together. Chloe gasped, placing a hand over her heart. Jackson, you didn't, she whispered, her eyes wide with delight. She thought this was her ultimate social media moment, a public declaration of my devotion. I gave her a small smile. I looked over at the DJ and slowly and deliberately I adjusted my tie. The house music faded to silence. The lights dimmed. The large white screen behind us, which had been displaying a static logo for the lounge, flickered and came to life. The show was about to begin. The first slide that appeared on the screen was a beautiful, smiling photo of Chloe and me, taken the day we got engaged. A collective awe rippled through the room. Chloe squeezed my arm, beaming. As I said, I began, my voice amplified by the microphone, calm and clear. This is a story about love and challenges. Our first major challenge, as many of you know, was the first cancellation of our wedding. Slide 2, text appeared on the screen over a faded picture of the Botanical Garden venue. Wedding 1, May 20, 2023. Reason for cancellation, family medical emergency. Below it in bold red letters, total non-refundable deposits lost, $12,350. A confused murmur went through the crowd. This was an odd detail for a romantic tribute. Chloe's smile faltered slightly. It was a difficult time, I continued, my tone even. Chloe had to rush home to Oregon to be with her mother, or so I thought. Slide 3, the screen changed. On one side was the selfie Chloe had sent me of her smiling in the sunshine with her mom. On the other side was a screenshot from the La Quinta Resort and Club's Instagram page promoting the Lifestyle and Branding Summit held that exact same week. And in the center, a larger image, a screenshot of the photo's geotag information. La Quinta Resort and Club, Palm Springs, California. A wave of shock rippled through the audience. I could see Chloe's father lean forward, squinting at the screen. Chloe's face had gone from beaming to ashen. She tugged at my sleeve. Jackson, what is this? She hissed, her voice a panicked whisper. Turn it off. I ignored her. As it turns out, this family emergency was a business trip. A very productive one, it seems, because that's where Chloe met this man. Slide 4, a new photo appeared. It was a candid shot from a blogger's public gallery of the summit. Chloe was laughing, her head tilted intimately toward a handsome, older man in an expensive suit. It was Marcus Thorne. Below the photo, I had placed a screenshot of their first DMs. Marcus, it was a pleasure to finally meet you. Your ambition is captivating. Chloe, the pleasure was all mine. I've been following your career for years. Let's move on to our second challenge, I said, clicking the remote in my hand. Slide 5, a picture of the rustic barn venue. Wedding 2, October 28, 2024. Reason for cancellation, venue double booking disaster. And below it, total non-refundable deposits lost, $16,500. Slide 6, the screen split in two. On the left, a screenshot of my credit card statement showing the charge for the Serenity Spa Couples Bliss Package. On the right, a screenshot of the text conversation. Chloe, he's running around like a hero trying to fix it. Meanwhile, our spa day is booked. Can't wait to see you. Marcus, my brilliant girl. Gasps echoed through the silent room. Chloe's mother had her hand over her mouth. Chloe was no longer whispering. She was trying to grab the microphone from my hand. Jackson, stop it, you're embarrassing me. I held it out of her reach. Embarrassing you, I said, my voice hardening for the first time. You think this is embarrassing? Let's talk about the third challenge. Slide 7, a picture of the hotel ballroom. Wedding 3, July 19, 2025. Reason for cancellation, last-minute, once-in-a-lifetime career opportunity in Paris. And at the bottom, total cost forfeited, $29,850. Slide 8, the screen filled with text message screenshots. A rapid-fire succession of her conversations with Marcus, planning the entire Paris deception. Marcus, the Paris contract is a go. They'll contact you in a few days. Act surprised. Chloe, you're a genius. This is so much better than faking another family death. Marcus, wheels up, my love. Paris awaits. Can't wait to celebrate our victory. The word victory hung in the air, damning and absolute. The entire room was frozen, a tableau of shock and horror. Chloe's friends, the bloggers, the brand reps, they were all staring, their phones suddenly out and recording. This was a story, all right, just not the one they were expecting. I clicked to the final slide. It was simple, stark white text. Slide 9, total financial cost of lies, $58,700. The emotional cost, incalculable, the wedding canceled permanently. I lowered the microphone. I turned to look at Chloe. Her face was a mask of pure, unadulterated fury and humiliation. The curated perfection had shattered, revealing the ugly truth beneath. Her silver dress seemed garish under the harsh glare of the projector. "So no," I said, my voice now quiet but carrying through the stunned silence. "We won't be announcing a new wedding date, but I do have one final announcement." I looked past Chloe, my eyes scanning the crowd until I found her parents. "I am so sorry you had to find out like this, and for the record, your daughter has been in contact with a lawyer. My lawyer. A civil suit for fraudulent inducement was filed this morning." I placed the microphone carefully on the DJ's table. I looked at Chloe one last time, at the smoldering wreckage of the life she had built on my trust and my money. I felt nothing. No anger, no sadness, just quiet, the quiet of a job completed. Without another word, I walked off the platform, through the silent, parting crowd and out the doors of the lounge into the cool night air. I didn't look back. David was right behind me. He clapped me on the shoulder as we reached the sidewalk. "Are you okay?" he asked. I took my first deep breath of truly free air. "I'm great," I said, and for the first time in years, it was the absolute truth. The aftermath was exactly the chaos I had designed. My phone exploded with calls and texts, which I ignored. Chloe's social media presence imploded overnight as videos from the party went viral among the local influencer community. #Chloe Chaos was trending by morning. Her perfect life was dismantled, post by damning post. Marcus Thorne's wife, I later learned, was sent an anonymous email with a link to the party footage. Their divorce was reportedly messy and swift. And the civil suit, with the binder of evidence I had compiled, she had no defense. Her lawyer advised her to settle immediately. A check for the full $58,700 arrived a few months later. It wasn't about the money. It was about the principle. It was the final structural support of her lies being knocked out from under her. I took that money and booked myself a long, quiet vacation to a place with no cell service. A place to start building something new, on a foundation that was solid, stable, and entirely my own. So I have to ask you, the audience, what would you have done? Would you have confronted her in private, or was public justice the only way to truly reclaim your life from a deception that grand? Sometimes, the only way to fix a flawed structure is to bring it down completely so you can build again, stronger than before.